Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. I recently developed a problem. I became allergic to soap. Now, not all soap, fortunately, but unfortunately, it's the soap that's used at the place where I work. And in one day of working, I probably wash my hands about 50 to 60 times. That's probably not an exaggeration, or if it is, it's a very small one. So it was sort of a problem when every time I washed my hands, they started to get red and itchy and little bumps started to form. So I noticed that when I went home for a weekend, I didn't have the problem. It went away. And then when I went back to work, it started again, and it was only my hands. So I figured out that it was the soap. So I decided I needed to do something about it. I started taking my own soap for one thing, and I started using this cream that's very good for allergies. And I would rub it on all the red itchy spots, and they got better. So now I'm almost completely healed from my allergy to soap. You know, we've been talking about some of the stories about Jesus, and there are an awful lot of stories about Jesus, and a lot of them have to do with healing. Because Jesus was always going around healing people. People came to him from miles around with all sorts of problems, and he could fix them. They didn't have any treatments for a lot of the problems that he took care of, like leprosy, which is an infection that causes the skin to harden, and seizures. And there are many descriptions of people coming to Jesus and being healed. And there are even stories about Jesus bringing people back after they had died. He could even heal that. I always liked the healing stories, to be honest. But some of them, I think, have a little bit more to them than just letting us know what a really good healer Jesus was. One of my favorite stories involves a time that Jesus was in the temple, and the priests in the temple were trying to get him into trouble. And it was the Sabbath, and you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath at all. So there was a man who was there who had what the Bible describes as a withered hand. And he'd had it for years and he couldn't use it. And Jesus saw him, and the priests asked him if it was all right to heal someone on the Sabbath. And Jesus looked at them and said, "Is there one of you who, if you had a sheep that fell into a ditch on the Sabbath, would not go and get it out?" And he reached his hand out, and the man's hand was healed. And Jesus said, "How can it be wrong to do good on the Sabbath?" Another story that I always liked involved a woman who came from Canaan. And she saw Jesus and she went to him and she immediately began telling him about her daughter. And her daughter had a very bad problem. She described it as that she had a demon. And she wanted Jesus to heal her. But she was not one of the Jewish people like Jesus was. And he ignored her for a moment. And the disciples tried to send her away. But she kept following him. And finally, Jesus turned to her and said, "I am sent for the lost sheep of Israel. It isn't right to throw the bread that belongs to the children to the dogs." And the woman looked at Jesus and said, "True, but even the dogs can eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table." And Jesus said, "It's a good point. Because of your faith, it will be as you said." And she went home and found that her daughter was healed. So, I think there are a lot of ways that people can be healed and can heal. Sometimes you might be able to heal someone. Like if one of your parents or one of your brothers or sisters is feeling sad, you might be able to do something about that. I also wonder if you could think about some other things that those two stories tell us about Jesus. So I've probably given you quite a lot to think about. And hopefully that will keep you busy until we meet again. All right, goodbye for now.